The Sivagnana Botham of Mekanda Deva, translated with notes and introduction by the late J.M.Nallaswami Pillai, B.A.B.L., 1945. Preface. Sivagnana Botham is the basic work on the Indian school of philosophic thought as developed and perfected in the Tamil land, and it is the key, from the point of view of a Shaiva Siddhantin, to an effective study and proper understanding of the spiritual experiences and teachings that find expression in the Vedas, the Shaivagamas, and the Tamil scriptures. Its author is the revered Saint Mekandar, an infant seer who flourished in the first half of the 13th century, and it stands to his inestimable credit that he inaugurated the renaissance of the Shaiva philosophy and put it, as it were, in a nutshell. It is a spiritual legacy that has come down to us directly from its author and adds to the glory of the Tamil language. The philosophic system expounded in the book is known as Siddhantam or Shaiva Siddhantam. The word Siddhantam means conclusions arrived at, or the true end, and the truths expressed by the system are conclusions reached as a result of spiritual experience or a realization consistent with the mystic spell, Upadesha, of the Guru and the Shruti or scripture. It is known as Shaiva Siddhantam because it is the logical conclusions of the Shivagamas, which originated from Lord Shiva. Both the Vedas and the Shivagamas are admittedly considered as the revealed books, i.e. works having a divine origin, and saintly seers and scholars have declared that it is in the Jnanapada of the Shivagamas, Agamanta, that the real exposition of the contents of the Vedanta, via the essence of the Vedas, i.e. Upanishads, is to be sought for. According to them, the Agamanta is to the Vedanta what the Bhashya, commentary, is to the Sutra, aphorism. Hence the Shaiva Siddhanta system is often referred to as being the essence of the Vedanta, or the conclusion derived from Vedashiras. From these it will be seen that a thorough study of the Shaiva Siddhanta works in Tamil as well as in Sanskrit is indispensable for a student of Indian philosophy before he can draw conclusions as to what exactly is the purely Vedantic view of the scheme of Indian metaphysics, and it is certain that a reader who genuinely applies himself to a study of the truths expounded in Sivagnana Botham will find therein the long-lost synthesis of truth in the field of philosophy and religion. The word Vedanta, used in the context referred to herein and in similar contexts, only denotes the classic Upanishads that form the essence of the Vedas. It has no reference in these contexts to the Vedanta Sutra by Vedavyasa or any of the philosophic systems, expounded by its several commentators. The systems of philosophic thought established by Sri Kantacharya, Sri Shankaracharya, Sri Ramanujacharya, and Sri Madhvacharya are respectively called by the Shaiva Siddhanta school of thought as Shivadvaita, Kevaladvaita, or Ekanmavada, or Mayavada, Vishishtadvaita, and Vedadvata. After the four great teachers of Shaiva religion, Shaiva Samacharyas, who flourished before the 8th century A.D., several currents of thought flowed into the Tamil land and swayed the minds of the people. The rival systems of philosophic thought propounded by the several commentators of the Brahma Sutra created confusion in the minds of the public. The idealistic monism based on the Vedic text Ekamadvadvitiyam Brahma, advanced by the followers of Sri Shankaracharya, challenged the high order of the spiritual life of the Tamil saints and their teachings. Although distinct expression of the essential principles of the Shaiva Siddhanta system could be found in the sublime devotional lyrics of the Tamil saint, they could not be easily seen, nor could they be maintained in the absence of an exposition of the truths in a scientific manner, at the bar of the rationale, against the opposing claims that came armed with logical methods of attack and armored with quotations from Vedic text. It was at such an age in the religious history of South India that Sri Mekanda Devar made his appearance as the rising sun of spiritual splendor, dispelling the darkness of ignorance and confusion in the minds of the people. It was given to the genius of this infant saint to supply the long-felt need of a scientific treatment of the principles of Shaiva Siddhanta religion and philosophy, and place them on a logical foundation. The life of Sri Mikandar is very interesting. He was born of a prince by the name of Achyutakalapalar, belonging to a family of hereditary Shaivites in Panakadam, a place 10 miles from Vridichalam, in the South Arcot district. Achyutakalapar was gifted with many blessings of the world, but was not blessed with a child, so he went to his family priest for advice. The teacher, as was the custom, prayed for enlightenment, opened the Tevara Tiramurai, and cited a beautiful stanza by Saint Tirujnana Sambandar in praise of the Lord in the temple at Tiruvenkadu. It plainly indicated that one will be gifted with a child, and there need be no doubt about it. Encouraged by this divine prophecy, Achyutakalapalar proceeded with his wife to Tiruvenkadu and dwelt there, offering prayers to the Lord Swethavaneshwara. One day the Lord appeared in his dream and said, "Though thou hast not the necessary good karma to be blessed with child in this birth, yet thou shalt be blessed with one like Tirujnana Sambandha, as thou hast put implicit faith in his sayings and hast acted accordingly." Later on a child was born to the happy couple, which was named Swethavana Paramal, after the name of the Lord. After some time the maternal uncle of the child took him to his native place, Tiruvannamalur, and brought him up with love and care. Even as an infant he showed signs of spiritual perfection characteristic of a samusiddha, a soul that has completed the paths of charya, kriya, and yoga in the previous birth, and has taken the present one to attain through jnana the Shiva Sayuja Paramukti. The child was completing his 2nd year. One day, Paranjoti Munigal of Sri Kailash was proceeding in the sky to Mount Podiyal to see the sage Agastya. He felt, as he was passing just over Tiruvannamalur, a mystic hindrance to his journey, and being intuitively directed by the Lord, came down to the child, touched him with the spark of divine grace, and imparted the spiritual legacy which had come down to him, Paranjoti, from Lord Shiva through Nandi, Deva, Sanat Kumara, and Satyajnana Darasanigal, and he disappeared. The child that was thus initiated into the true faith was given the Dikshanama Mekandadeva, so as to be an adequate description of his spiritual perfection, as well as an indication of his spiritual heredity, for the name Mekandar is a Tamil equivalent to Satyajnana Darshanigal, the name of his spiritual grandfather. The 4 personalities mentioned from Sri Nandi Deva onwards, from a celestial chain of spiritual preceptors called Akachandana Acharyas, mystics of the inner circle, while that from Sri Makanda Deva form a chain of spiritual preceptors called Purachandana Acharyas, mystics of the outer circle. Sri Mekandadeva, then realizing the spiritual truth imparted to him in the presence of the Pillai Lord Ganesha in the Araturai temple at Tiruvannamalur, formulated the truth in 12 sutras in Tamil and added 2 more stanzas, one in praise of Lord Pilayar and the other an apologetic stanza as foreword or Upatgatha Prakarana. He also added to the sutras a commentary known as Vartikam, which is a dissertation on the main issues of each sutra. The dissertation on a particular issue consists of the proposition maintained, the reason, and the illustrations. He instructed his disciples, who were 49 in number, and initiated them into the mysteries. The chief of them was Arunanthi Shivacharya, who was no other than the Shakalagama Pandita, the family priest of Achyuta Kalapalar. The first meeting of Sakalagama Pandithar with Sri Mikanda has a fascinating history behind it. Sakalagama Pandita himself was a priest well reputed for his wide and deep learning, and he had been teaching the scriptural literature to his disciples, but in course of time one by one of the disciples disappeared from his religious classes, and he came to know that they were attracted to the child at Tiruvannamalur. So he proposed to go to that place to see the child. He was given a grand reception by the residents of the place, and all but Mikandar came to welcome him and pay their respects. So with pride the Pandit went to the place where Sri Mikandadeva was teaching Sivagnana Botham to his disciples, and found that he was expounding the principle of evil, anava. He immediately asked Sri Mikanda what the form of Anava was. The infant saint, by way of reply, promptly pointed his finger at Shakalagama Pandit himself. Instantly the pride of the Pandita was humbled, and he prostrated before the saintly child, and sincerely prayed for spiritual wisdom. Sri Mikandadeva initiated him in the true faith, and gave him the Dikshanamam, Arulnandi, and after instructing him in Shivajnana Bodham, commanded him, Arulnandi, to produce a treatise expanding the ideas contained in Shivajnana Bodham. He produced the work, and it is called Shivajnana Siddhyar, and he is also the author of another work, Irupa Irupathu. A long chain of spiritual teachers followed them, propounding the Shaiva religion and philosophy both by precept and example. Thus revitalized by Sri Mikanda and the spiritual teachers that followed him, the Siddhanta path has enabled many a soul, spiritually mature, to attain realization. The founders of the two great Shaiva Adinams, the Dharmapuram Adinam and the Tiruvavadurai Adinam, were direct descendants of the holy line of spiritual teachers originated from Sri Mikandadeva. The history of the two Adinams will consist of the spiritual experiences of a long succession of Shivajnanis. These Shivajnanis have set down their own mystic experiences, as also the secrets that their gurus had revealed to them during Upadesha in various treatises, and these treatises have been collected and grouped and are known by the collective name Pandara Shastras. They have also written lucid commentaries on the Shaiva Siddhanta works. The most important of them are Shivajnana Bhashyam, a grand superb Tamil commentary on Shivajnana Bodham by Sri Shivajnana Munivar of Tiruvavadurai Adinam, and Jnanabaranda Vilakam, an elaborate and informative commentary on Shivajnana Siddhar by Sri Velyambalavana Munivar of Dharmapuram Adinam. There is also the work of Muktinishchayam, a small but valuable and most important work by the founder of the Dharmapuram Adinam, Srimat Guru Jnana Sambandha Paramacharya Swamigal. Two commentaries on the same, one brief and another elaborate, have been produced by the said Velyambalavana Munivar. The Shaiva Siddhanta system of religion and philosophy, which has thus been fostered and kept alive by a great number of sages, saints, and seers, has mostly been confined to the Tamil language. The need for translating the important works of the system has been a long felt one. The contribution made by late J.M.Nallaswami Pillai, B.A.B.L., in his direction is something remarkable. He was a profound scholar in Tamil as well as in English, and was generally accepted to be one of the well-informed interpreters of the Shaiva Siddhanta religion and philosophy to the English-knowing people. All his works have become out of print, and as his inheritors were not able to get them reprinted, His Holiness Srila Sri Shanmukta Desika Jnana Sambandha Paramacharya Swamigal, 24th in the holy line of succession of his Adinam, thought it better to obtain the copyright of all his works for this Adinam, and this edition is a reprint of his translation of Shivajnana Bodham. This is the first in the attempt to introduce his works to the public just to meet the need of English works on Shaiva Siddhanta. Perhaps it may be an incentive to those scholars of Shaiva religion and philosophy who can express themselves in English to produce similar works. It is believed that such works will propagate the Shaiva philosophy and infuse the inquiring and thinking mind with zeal to learn the religion and philosophy from the original works in Tamil. It is 50 years since the book was published, and now only 500 copies are printed, and that in ordinary paper and get-up. Constructive criticism and suggestions with regard to the thought and the expression as found in the book from well-wishers are welcome, and they will be given due consideration. The book will again be reprinted and placed before the public in a better form. The publication is made on the occasion of the ceremonial worship at the feet of Sri Amirthagateshwara in connection with the 32nd birthday of His Holiness Srila Sri Subramania Deshika Janana Sambandha Paramacharya Swamigal, 25th in the descent of the Dharmapura Madinam at Tirukadavur on Friday, the 2nd of November 1945. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Muna Somasundara Thambiran of Dharmapuram Adinam, Monamut Rockfort Trichy, November 2nd, 1945. Tirukadavur. Sivagnana Botham. As the seen universe, spoken of as he, she, and it, undergoes three changes: origin, development, and decay, this must be an entity created by an efficient cause. This entity, owing to its conjunction with Anavamala, has to emanate from Hara, to whom it returns during Samharam. Hence, the learned say that Hara is the first cause. He is one with the souls, Abeta. He is different from them, Betha. He is one and different from them, Betha Betha. He stands in Samavaya union with his Jnana Shakti and causes the souls to undergo the process of evolution, births, and return, Samharam, by including their good and bad acts, karma. It rejects every portion of the body as not being itself. It says, my body, it is conscious of dreams. It exists in sleep without feeling pleasure or pain or movements. It knows from other, this is the soul which exists in the body formed as a machine from Maya. The soul is not one of the Andakarama. It is not conscious when it is in conjunction with Anavamala. It becomes conscious only when it meets the Andakarana. Just as a king understands through his ministers, the relation of the soul to the five avashta is also similar. The senses, while perceiving the object, cannot perceive themselves or the soul, and they are perceived by soul. Similarly, the soul, while perceiving, cannot perceive itself, while thinking cannot think thought, and God. It is moved by the Aral Shakti of God, as the magnet moves the iron, while himself remains immovable or unchangeable. That which is perceived by the senses is asat, changeable. That which is not so perceived does not exist. God is neither the one nor the other, and hence called Shivasat or Chitsat by the wise, Chit or Shiva when not understood by the human intelligence, and Sat when perceived with divine wisdom. In the presence of Sat, everything else, cosmos, Asat, is Shunyam, non-apparent. Hence Sat cannot perceive Asat. As Asat does not exist, it cannot perceive Sat. That which perceives both cannot be either of them. This is the soul, called Sat Asat. The Lord appearing as Guru to the soul which had advanced in tapas, virtue and knowledge, instructs him that he has wasted himself by living among the savages of the five senses, and on this the soul, understanding its real nature, leaves its former associates, and not being different from him, becomes united to his feet. The soul, on perceiving in itself with the eye of Jnanam the Lord who cannot be perceived by the human intellect or senses, and on giving up the world, Pasha, by knowing it to be false as a mirage, will find its rest in the Lord. Let the soul contemplate Sri Panchachara according to law. As the Lord becomes one with the soul in its human condition, so let the soul become one with him and perceive all its actions to be his. Then will it lose all its mala and karma. As the soul enables the eye to see and itself sees, so Hara enables the soul to know and itself knows, and this Advaita knowledge and undying love will unite it to his feet. Let the Jivatma enter after washing off its mala, which separates it from the strong lotus feet of the Lord, and mixing in the society of bhaktas, jivanmuktas, whose souls abound with love, having lost dark ignorance, contemplate their forms, and the forms in the temples as his form. Invocation of Ganesha. The good will crown their heads with the 2 feet of Ganesha, who was begotten by the great teacher, who sat under the sacred mountain banyan tree and removed the doubts of the great Nandi. Notes. Ganesha is the representation of Brahm and is of the form of Samashti Parava. The author's apology. Those who know their Lord from the knowledge of themselves, their true nature, will not revile me and my work, as I am their own slave. Those who do not know themselves cannot know their Lord, and of course cannot agree among themselves. Their abuse I hear not. Sivagnana Botham, Chapter 1, Pramanavial Proof, First Sutra on the Existence of God. Sutra. As the seen universe, spoken of as he, she, and it, undergoes 3 changes, origin, development, and decay, this must be an entity created by an efficient cause. This entity, owing to its conjunction with Anavamala, has to emanate from Hara, to whom it returns during Samharam. Hence the learned say that Hara is the first cause. Commentary. This sutram establishes by an inference that this universe has Hara as its first cause, and it consists of 3 principal arguments. First argument. Churnika, the universe undergoes the 3 changes of original production, development, and decay. Vartikam, as an existing object has its origin and decay, it is shown that the cosmic entity which is spoken of as he, she, and it is subject to origin, development, and decay. Udarana, the world, if it exists, is followed by destruction and reproduction. Having seen that particular species in nature have particular seasons of reproduction, development, and decay, will not the wise argue that the world also undergoes periodical changes? Second argument, Churnika. These changes are caused by Hara. Vartikam, objects not in existence, unreal, do not come into visible being. Hence the seen universe must be an entity, as products of industry cannot be produced except by an artisan, so the world which appears as a product has a creator, or an efficient cause, and the cosmos can only be developed from the condition into which it had been dissolved previously in Samharam. Urdana. The world which has been resolved into Hara must emanate from him. The dissolution is required as rest for karma mala, and the reproduction for the removal of anavamala. All will admit that things will be reproduced from what they had been resolved into. If you say that the world resolved into Vishnu, whose form is Mula Prakriti, then all the higher products of Maya above Mula Prakriti will not be dissolved. All the products of Maya become resolved along the Vishnu, and Brahma also Hara, who is the author of both. Just as a sprout appears when a seed is embedded in moist earth, so the world is created from Maya by the Shakti, or light, of Ishvara, whose creation is in accordance with the unchangeable laws of karma, and lo, the power of Shakti. Just as when not sprouting, the seed is concealed in the earth, so Maya exists in God when not differentiated, and he gives each his form as he desires it, just as the worm in a wasp's nest gets the form it desires. Just as time, the producer of all changes, itself remains without change, so God, who creates, develops, and destroys the world without any mechanical means, and by his mere will, remains without change. He has in consequence no ties, pasabantam, just like the mind having certain impressions, itself remains different, i.e., does not become changed into them, and like the man who has learnt the truth in the waking state will not be misled by the dreams he has had. Or, God is eternal, and like time is without change, when with his mere will and without any mechanical means, he creates, develops, and destroys the world. This creation is without any purpose to himself, himself, as the dreamer finds no benefit in his dreams in his waking state. Third argument. Churnika, the other two, Vishnu and Brahma, are also subject to these three changes. Vartikam, as the known cosmic entity has no power of action except through the unknown author of Samharam, this author, Hara, is the only supreme God. Udarana, Hara, who is neither the one nor the other in the universe of mind and matter, is the only supreme being of the said universe, as the universe of mind also becomes dissolved in him in the same way. After they, minds, had been created and developed, the said universe of mind, which, like him, is eternal, is subordinate to him even in moksha. Notes, General. The argument proceeds from a pratyaksha fact admitted by the Lokayitha or materialist. This fact, the seen universe, which can be described under the terms he, masculine gender, she, feminine gender, or it, neuter gender, or as thanu, animal bodies, karana, internal and external organs or senses, bhuvana, worlds, and bhoga, sensations, is then shown to be capable of change or evolution. Its present condition is itself the product of causation, evolved from its primordial nature, and its decay is its resolution into its primordial state. This primordial substance is what is called Maya, or cosmic matter. This Maya is not a non-entity, nor is it caused from God or Atma, soul, as will be shown later on. The definition of Maya and its treatment will include all the phenomena noted by the present-day materialist and biologist in the field of physics and biology. It is best translated by the word object and object consciousness. This Maya therefore undergoes Shrishti, Sthiti, and Samharam. Samharam is not destruction, and the chain of evolution does not stop, but it proceeds, and the reason for this successive change, i.e. recreation and rebirths, is given in the text. It is caused by or necessitated by its conjunction with Anavamala. The word Anava is derived from the root anu, meaning exceedingly small, and the word anu, which is a synonym for soul, is so called as the soul, which is a vibhu in its real state, is made anu, small as an atom, by its conjunction with Anavamala. The Anavamala is the imperfection or ignorance or impurity or darkness which covers or conceals the intelligence or light or purity of the soul. It is the presence of this imperfection or impurity in nature which necessitates evolution or successive recreations and rebirths, as it can only be removed by such evolution. Maya is therefore evolved, but not by its own inherent power. Maya or matter is capable of motion, but cannot move itself, just as a wheel capable of motion cannot move unless moved by some other person or thing, or by the force of gravity, or just as products of industry cannot shape themselves except through an artificer and his instruments or tools, though they possess such capability. This grand force, then, which moves and evolves the whole universe, is the first cause, and the grand artificer, the supreme being. Maya is the material cause, Upadana Karana, of the universe supplying its form and matter. God is the efficient cause, or Nimitta Karana, and the Thunai Karana, Sahakari, or instrumental cause, is his Chit Shakti, which is defined in the second sutra. The inference employed here is an inductive inference, and the argument is represented by two syllogistic forms called Kevalanvayi Anumana and Anvaya Ryatireki Anumana. The first syllogism is represented like this. Pratijna, proposition, this universe has a karta. 2. Hetu, the reason, because it has been evolved into forms such as he, she, and it. 3. Utharana, the instance, a pot is made by a potter. 4. Upanayam, the assumption, the universe is such a product as a pot. 5. Nigamana, the deduction, therefore the universe has a karta. For further forms, see the commentaries of Shivagra Yogi on Sivagnana Siddhi. The word samhara, which means change, connotes both Shristi and Sthiti, and hence Hara, who is Samharakarta, represents in himself the powers of Shristi and Sthiti Kartas. In fact, when we look at the universe and postulate God, the one idea we have of him is as the supreme evolving energy or force working for the perfection or salvation of the world of mind and matter. The root meaning of Hara is change, producer, or destroyer. He evolves the world and removes darkness or ajnana. An adhikarana, or argument, comprises 1. Vishaya, the proposition; 2. Samsaya, the doubt or objections; 3. Purvapaksha, the theory refuted; 4. Siddhanta, the theory proved or established; and 5. Shankati, the sequence in the argument, and it is a point worthy of note how, in the treatment of the whole subject, the argument proceeds step by step, one based upon or following the first without a single break in the chain, and it is also possible to exhibit each argument in the 5 modes above mentioned, but it is unnecessary to do so. Churnika is a particular style of expression. It expresses in a short sentence the substance of the whole argument. Vartikam means an explanatory note. Udarana, or analogy, is here used as a method of inductive proof and should be distinguished from the various kinds of upamana polis, or false analogies and figures of rhetoric. The sole condition of a real analogy is, as stated by Dr. Bain, that the sameness apply to the attribute found by induction to bear the consequence assigned. 1. The first argument needs no comment. Nobody now denies that cosmos undergoes successive evolutionary changes. 2. The second argument, in fact, consists of 3 arguments. The first argument refutes the theory of Buddhists and Mayavathis, idealists, who assert the non-reality of the universe. The second argument refutes the theory that world can evolve of itself, and the third deals with the mode of evolution, i.e., by dissolution and reproduction. A. The first illustration shows the reason why dissolution is required. It is as rest for karma. Just after the exertions of the day, we require rest during the night for undergoing the struggles of tomorrow. So death gives us a prolonged rest to the human monad to enable it to eat its previous karma in the next birth. Why should it have a next birth? Because it must eat the fruits of previous karma, and unless it does so, its anavamala, or ignorance, cannot be removed. This latter, then, is the reason for reproduction. B. The seed is the maya, the sprout, the karma, and the tree, the world, and the earth, God, and its moisture and heat, the Shakti of God. God is Vyapaka, souls are Vyapti, and Maya and other Mala are Vyapya. Sea is Vyapaka, water is the Vyapati, and the salt is Vyapya. The text of the Veda, that the worlds are created out of Brahm, is to be understood as when we say that the tree sprung out of the earth. Also the word pangaja, meaning sprung out of mire. It is karma that determines the number of successive births and creations and the forms of succession, and not God. Though it is the worm which passes into various forms before it becomes the wasp, yet without the aid of the parent wasp, which affords it warmth and food, the worm cannot obtain its full development. So God adjusts the birth according to karma and makes the souls eat the fruits thereof. Without his divine presence and energy, the soul cannot take for itself its own material body, and it can have no progress unless when it is in conjunction with its material body. It is in him we live, move, and have our very being. The question arises whether God, in producing these changes, does change in any way. When one man reaps good and another reaps evil, does God like the one and dislike the other? This is answered in the negative. In the illustration, he is nirvikari. He has neither likes nor dislikes. One other illustration given in the second sutra and elaborated by the commentator of Ojaviladukam is as follows. The sun shines without any desire or intention or volition on its part, yet in its presence the lotus plant receives its development, and while one flower is still a bud, another has fully blown out, and a third is withering. So in the divine presence Maya undergoes changes, and so the author says, his presence possesses 5 functions. One other peculiarity in the nomenclature of God employed by the various schools and affecting the various ideals formed deserves to be noted here. The Vaishnava would hardly describe God in any other form than masculine. All specific names of Vishnu are masculine, and they cannot be declined in any other gender, and even when so declined, they will not denote Vishnu. Example Vishnu, Vaishnavi, and Vaishnavam, and Narayana, Narayani, and Narayanam. And of course, the image which the use of the word calls up is a male form. A follower of Shankaracharya would prefer to use a neuter form of expression and calls his god Brahm, Param, and so on. With his peculiar adaptability, he would also use such words as Narayana, Ishvara, Isha, etc. The Shaivite, however, uses all 3 forms, he, she, and it, in describing God, and all the specific names of Shiva are capable of declension in all the 3 forms without change in its denotation and connotation. Shiva, Shiva, Shivam. Ishvara, Ishvari, Ishvaram, Shankara, Shankari, Shankaram, Para, Para, Param, and so on, and accordingly the images which he employs in his temples correspond to these forms. All nature is comprised in the 3 forms he, she, and it, and when we use human language and forms of nature to describe him, there is no reason why one form should be preferred to the other when all forms of nature are his. I may note here another peculiar doctrine of this school. In fact, if there is any one doctrine which is more insisted in this school than another, it is this, that God cannot be born in the flesh and he cannot have human avatars. It is the height of absurdity to suppose that God, who is the inconceivable and the unknowable and indescribable, can be born as a man when he causes to be such. See notes to 6th Sutra for a further discussion of the point. 3. This argument establishes the supremacy of Hara and the oneness of God. The commentaries here discuss why God is not Brahma or Vishnu or Atma or the rest, the answer being that these latter are all liable to change and possess no Swatantharam, and why there should be too many as Anika Ishvara Vathis assert, and several other questions besides. It should here be noted that Hara or Shiva or Isha or Ishvara, as used in the text, is not to be identified with one of the Hindu trinity bearing the same name. In the whole of the sacred literature, we find him described as the Lord of the Trinity and as one who cannot be known even to the Trinity. The Trimurtis are themselves regarded as mortals, being born at the beginning of each kalpa and dying at the end of each, and the Vishnu of the next means only the Puranic Vishnu, clothed with such attributes and personal qualities as are ascribed to him and capable of avatars, and the Vishnu of the Trinity representing Mula Prakriti and the function of Sthiti. Concluding remarks. The first sutra therefore establishes the existence of the 3 mala, Maya, Anava, and Karma, and of God. In the terminology of this school, the 3 mala are called by a generic name, Pasha, and God is called Pati. Pasha means a bond or tie or shackle or bantham, and the 3 banthams are distinguished as follows. Anavapasha binds or limits the omniscience or perfect knowledge of the soul, and hence called pratibandham. Karma Pasha, like an unceasing flood, follows the soul and drives it to eat the fruits of karma, bhoga, without permitting it to seek moksha, and hence called anubandham. Maya Pasha limits the omnipresence, vyabhaka, of the soul and confines it to a particular body, and hence called sambandham. Atma, in the terminology of this school, is called pasha as a thing bound by pasha. The terminology employed by the Ramanujas for these Tirpadarthas is Chit, Achit, and Ishvara, and that by the school of Shankaracharya is Jagat, Jiva, and Para. The next sutra proceeds to define Chit Shakti, by which alone the relation between God and Atma and Mala is established, and by whose power alone rebirths are induced. Second Sutra, the relation of God to the world and to souls. Sutra, he is one with the souls, abeta, he is different from them, betha betha, he stands in samavaya, a union with his jnana shakti, and causes the souls to undergo the process of evolution, births, and return, samharam, by inducing their good and bad acts. Karma, Commentary. This treats of the subject of rebirths and consists of four principal arguments. First argument. Churnika, hara exists in all the souls inseparately as one with them. Vartikam, the world, advaitam, cannot mean oneness of ikan, as without a second. No one can think of himself as one, and as the very thought implies two things. The word simply denies the separate existence and separability of the two. In this sense, it is said here that the souls exist as one with the Lord. Udarana, the soul standing in its body composed of bones, muscles, etc., and in union with the senses, answers to the name given for its body when anybody addresses it and identifies itself with the body. Similarly, though the Lord stands in a similar intimate relation with the soul, he is not the soul, and the soul cannot become the Lord. In the human state, he is one and not one with the soul. B. The Vedic text Ekam Evavithayam Brahma Ekam Evarudro Natvitigai Thashtuhu means that there is only one supreme being without a second, and this one is the Patha, not the soul. You may say ignorantly, you are one with the Lord, are the soul, and are bound up with Pasha, as we say that without the primary soul, all other letters will not sound. So the Vedas say without the Lord, no other things will exist. C. The Aral Shakti of the Lord, which pervades the whole universe, is inseparably and eternally connected with the world, just like the sound in the tune and the flavor in the fruit. So the rare Vedas declare that Brahm is Advaitam and not Ekam. D. Just like the whetstone composed of gold, wax, and sand, God is one with the world and is different from it, and he is neither. Betha Betham. When God enters my soul, when I am freed from Pasham, I identify myself with God and say I am all the world. Second argument, Churnika. Hara makes the soul eat the fruit of their karma. Vartikam, the soul's good and bad karma are induced by the jnana shakti of the Lord, just as a king protects his town by appointing watchmen to guard it, and thus exercises his authority. Udarana, the soul joining the body caused by its previous karma, eats the fruits thereof. Similarly, our present actions, karma, furnish the seed for our body in the next birth. God, the all-bountiful, makes the soul eat the fruits of previous karma without suffering any change, just as the soil makes the cultivator reap as he sowed. B. Just as iron is attracted to the magnet when a person brings it in position, so the souls performing karma join the body in which the karma is affected and eat the fruits by the aural of God. If they do not so enjoy by his Arul, who else could know and make them eat the fruits of karma in the most unchangeable manner, in that condition where they lie helpless, without self-knowledge and self-action, enshrouded by mala. B. The Vedic text, Ekam evadvitiyam Brahma, Ekam evarudro nadvitige Tastuhu, means that there is only one supreme being without a second, and this one is the path and not the soul. You who say ignorantly you are one with the Lord are the soul and are bound up with pasha, as we say that without the primary soul, A, all other letters will not sound, so the Vedas say without the Lord no other things will exist. C, the Arul Shakti of the Lord, which pervades the whole universe, is inseparably and eternally connected with the world, just like the sound in the tune and the flavor in the fruit. So the rare Vedas declare that Brahm is Advaitam and not Ekam. Just like the whetstone composed of gold, wax, and sand, God is one with the world and is different from it, and he is neither. Bethabetham. When God enters my soul, when I am freed from Pasham, I identify myself with God and say I am all the world. Second argument. Churnika. Hara makes the souls eat the fruit of their karma. Vartikam, the soul's good and bad karma are induced by the Jnana Shakti of the Lord, just as a king protects his town by appointing watchmen to guard it, and thus exercises his authority. Udarana, A, the soul joining the body caused by its previous karma eats the fruits thereof. Similarly, our present actions, karma, furnish the seed for our body in the next birth. God, the All-Bountiful, makes the soul eat the fruits of previous karma without suffering any change, just as the soil makes the cultivator reap as he sowed. B. Just as iron is attracted to the magnet when a person brings it in position, so the souls performing karma join the body in which the karma is affected and eat the fruits by the Arul of God. If they do not so enjoy by his Arul, who else could know and make them eat the fruits of karma in the most unchangeable manner, in that condition where they lie helpless, without self-knowledge and self-action, enshrouded by mala? C. The book of the paddy or the rust of the copper is not new, but coexisted with the grain or copper. So three malas, maya, karma, and anava coexist with the soul and were not acquired by it at any intermediate time. These undergo change in the presence of God, just as the sun's rays cause one lotus to open and another to close. Third argument. Churnika, the souls are subject to rebirths, losing their previous forms. Vartikam, the souls are reborn after death, as birth and death are possible only to things existing eternally and changing continually. Udarana, A, the soul passing at death from its Sthula Sarira, composed of eyes, ears, etc., into its Sukshuma Sharira, which it had already, undergoes its experiences in heaven or hell, and forgetting such experiences, just as a dreamer forgets his experience of the waking state, passes as an atom in its Sukshuma state into a suitable womb at conception time, impelled thereto by the desire created by its previous karma. B. The analogies of the serpent passing out of its old skin and the mind from the conscious into the dream condition and the yogi into another body are often properly pointed out to explain the passing of the soul from its sthula into the shukshuma sarira. Against this view, the analogy of the air of the pot passing into the atmosphere after the breaking of the pot is instanced to support the view that the soul takes no other body after death. This does not serve. It only illustrates the fact of the soul passing from the Shukshuma Sarira itself. Fourth argument. Churnika, Hara, is omnipresent. Vartikam, he is one with his Chit-Shakti as he is omnipresent without being one or different from the world. Udarana, if God is all-pervading, one with the souls and matter, he cannot be one. If he is two, he cannot be all-pervading. He cannot be said to be not all-pervading, as there is no body or soul which exists without him. He pervades everything by his Chit-Shakti, just like the light of the sun. The whole universe is his property, and the souls are his servants. Notes. General. This sutra discusses the most important and peculiar doctrine of this school, namely its theory of Advaitam, or the relation between God and the souls. Three relations are possible. One, succession or causation. When one thing is the cause and the other is the effect, there is no difference whatever. It is abetha, just like gold and ornaments made out of it. 2. Coexistence with mutual exclusion. Here one has no connection whatever with the other. One is totally external to the other. It is betha, like darkness and light. 3. Coexistence without mutual exclusion or externality, as when two different things are connected inseparably, like the association of ideas. It is betha betham, just like the word in its meaning. Here the word is either a sound or a symbol, and is distinguishable from the connotation of the name, yet both the symbol or sound and the connotation is inseparably and indissolubly associated with each other. This relationship is not postulated by any other school. Under the first division comes in both idealism, mayavatham, and materialism, nashtikam and buddhavadam. In both the schools, causation is postulated, whether it be that matter is derived from mind or the universe of mind, and matter is derived from an absolute, or mind is derived from matter, or a combination of skandhas. From the theory of causation, when you derive matter from mind, it will be as easy to derive mind from matter, and the objections we can take against the materialist will equally be applicable to the theory of the idealist, as is pointed out by Professor G.J. Romanes in his article on Mind and Body. In fact, idealism is regarded by the Siddhantin as Nashtikam or nihilism, and the term Prachana Buddha Vadam is freely applied to it. The Hindu idealists are also fond of giving two other analogies, the spider and its web and the fire and its spark. It is easily seen that these are identical in substance, and the web is merely the product of the material body, the glands of the spider, and not of its life principle. The Siddhantins therefore reject these relationships, or at least the relationship pointed to by these analogies. The Vishishtadvaita, or the Ramanujacharya, and the Dvaita of Madhvacharya may be placed under the second head or even the third head, as some sort of relationship is said to exist between God and man. In the moksha of a Ramanuja, each Atma retains its personality distinct from God, but there is a union between its spirit and the universal spirit, and according to the Madhva, the relationship is similar to that of a guru and shishya, or that of a parent and child. I said before that the Siddhantin rejects all these relationships, that he does not affirm causation, nor separable or inseparable coexistence as explained above. Yet in the sutra, God is called abetha. The connection is such that an identity is perceived, and the best illustration of this relationship is that of the body and life, or mind. The objective and subjective phenomena are quite different, and yet a sort of absolute identity is established. He is betha, and this is illustrated as follows. An act of perception is one and indivisible, yet the perception is caused by two agencies, the eye and the sun, or light. The eye cannot perceive without the aid of the light. Though both the light of the eye and the light of the sun combine together, the combination is perceived as one. Here there is no causation as between the eye and the sun. He is betha betham, but the Tamil equivalent of the latter word is perhaps more expressive. This relationship is similar to that of the soul or mind and the sense of sight or eye. Though in all these cases an identity is perceived, a difference in substance is also felt. It is this relation which could not easily be postulated in words, but which may perhaps be conceived, and which is seen as to Dvaitam, and at the same time as not to Nadvaitam. It is this relation which is called Advaitam, a unity or identity in duality, and the philosophy which postulates it, the Advaita philosophy. And the first argument deals with the meaning and force of this word. God is all, prapancham, but all is not God. He is therefore all and not all. He is immanent in everything and yet above everything. This doctrine is very popular in nearly the whole of the Tamil literature, and it is most vividly expressed in the favorite phrase, The Hindu idealists stop with he is all and do not proceed to postulate he is not all or he is above all. All objective phenomena may be, in a sense, mental or subjective, but all the subjective phenomena are not objective. Advaitam does not mean monism. The prefix a or na does not negate the positive existence of one or other of the two, Dvaitam. It is not used in the abhava. If it is so used, it will not only negate one thing or another, but it may negate both and end in nihilism. And it may not only mean one ekam or monism, but may mean more than two, i.e. three, or any number. As the learned commentator Sivagnana Yogi points out, when the negative is prefixed to the numeral in common usage, it does not mean that, for instance, when we say there are not two books in the room, it may mean that no books are in the room, or that only one book is in the room, or that there are more than two books. If the negative prefix in Advaitam does not mean abva, what does it mean? It is used in the non-dual sense. The querist sees or fancies he sees two objects and asks, are they dual? The answer is, they are non-dual, not meaning one. Advaitam, therefore, means literally non-dualism and not monism. The word anekam, which does not mean obviously nothing, but many, in Sivagnana Siddhi, Advaitam is defined as neither one nor two nor either. The position seems to be a negative rather than a positive one. All this language is adopted so as to illustrate that the relation is such that it is not possible to adequately examine or illustrate, and we will find the author of Ojivilodukam enjoin, don't say one or two. Another popular verse runs as follows. The subject is more fully treated in the subsequent chapters. If there is only one absolute, the very idea of duality is impossible. The word Advaitam implies the existence of two things and does not negate the reality or existence of one of the two. It simply postulates a relation between the two. A. This contains the illustration of body and mind. As in a purely objective state, no subjective feeling is present, so in the human state the soul is in a purely objective condition and is not cognizant, therefore, of its subject God. The Atma is capable of a double relation. It has two kinds of Advaitam. It is in Advaita relation with Maya and at the same time in Advaita relation with God. I may call the first its objective relation and the other its subjective relation. When its objective relation, its connection with Thanu, Karana, etc., predominates, it is in Bandha. It is the embodied human soul. When its subjectivity predominates, it is itself. It is in God, and it is God, moksha. In its first condition, we don't see the soul, but its object side, physical body and organs, mind, manas, chittam, etc., and sensations and the worlds. In its second condition, we don't see the soul either, but God, with which it had identified itself. The important point to be noted is that though in the one or the other condition of the soul, one thing, God or other, Maya, is not present, yet its existence or reality cannot be denied. Inasmuch as we cannot see God now, we cannot deny his existence and call him mithya, illusion. And when the world therefore disappears in the other case, nor can the world be called mithya. Thayumanavar. Oh, for the day when I will become one with the being of true knowledge, as I am now one with Anava. The subject receives further elaboration as we proceed. B. The illustration herein contained is the same as in the first verse of the sacred Kural, though its significance is not often understood. The point of comparison is not the position of the letter A in place. Its place is to be sought in its origin and its power of determining other sounds as herein indicated. The most primary sound that the human organ can utter is A, and the other vowels that can be sounded of themselves are formed by modifications of A. Consonants, on the other hand, do not have the same origin as A, but they cannot be pronounced except with the help of A and its modifications. So, though God and man are distinct eternal entities, one man cannot exist except in God, but man does not originate from God, as consonants do not originate from vowels. The same applies with regard to soul and its body, and it is this philosophic thought that underlies the Tamil equivalents of vowel and consonant. The embodied soul or mind, A, is the soul, K is the soul body. In A, embodied soul, we will see only the body consonant and not the vowel soul. A, again, is God. K is the soul. In K, human soul, we see only the consonant, soul, and not the vowel, God, though. You will realize both when you pronounce it, attain jnanam. God is the life and the soul in his body, and not a particle of the life, God, nor a spark from it, nor its reflection, nor shadow, nor the imagined silver in the oyster shell. In the latter case, the soul is either a nonentity, or there is no difference in kind or substance, though there may be a difference in quantity or quality. In the former case, there is a difference in substance, but an entity, in fact, as the two exist together. See, Shakti literally means power, and the Shakti of the Lord is therefore his energy or power, his will and his light or grace or knowledge. Hence we have three forms of Shakti, Kriya Shakti, Ichcha Shakti, and Jnana Shakti or Aral Shakti. God, by his first two powers, evolves the universe from their undifferentiated condition. By the last, he links the whole world with himself. It is the Aral Shakti which connects God and man. It is the Jnana Shakti which gives life to inanimate beings, harmony to things without harmony, and to each and everything its peculiar beauty, or taste, or brightness. Without it, everything else would be void, lifeless, actionless, and darksome. This life of life, this light of light, this Chit Shakti is not the light which Mr. Chabarros says enters some mechanism and becomes converted into a human monad, man, and then becomes clothed with all the laws of karma, etc. So, what is it worth? Nor is Mr. Chabarros' Ishvara, which he derives in a mysterious way from Brahm, the Ishvara of the Siddhanti. His Ishvara is Brahm, and the Shakti is the Mahashakti or Mahachitanyam. The relation of Ishvara to Shakti and to all other life is well illustrated in the Puranic story of Kumara Sabhava. God separated from his Shakti, he was then in a condition of a yogi, then all life did not become extinct, but all life became lifeless. From the immortal gods to the lowest things in the order of creation, the immortals became aware of this and of its cause, and then planned a scheme to bring together Shiva, Sat, and Shakti, Chit, as though they could do it. The very attempt proved a disastrous failure. They ignorantly thought, judging from their own standpoint, that the god's love was something akin to man's gross love. They therefore induced Manmatha or Kamadeva, the human god of love, to aim his shafts at Shiva. He did so, and he was burned to ashes the very instant from a spark from his nether eye. He was, however, moved to pity at the sad plight of the so-called immortals, became united to his Shakti, i.e. became all love, and begot Kumara, who represents again action or energy, and Jnana, his two Shaktis, and who trampled under his foot Shurapadma, all evil, and released the immortals from their bondage. The first light, Adi Shakti, is Gayatri. See the elaboration of this subject in Devi Bhagavata Purana. D. 1. This contains another illustration. The whetstone is God in union with the world. The gold wax is God, which holds and binds in itself the sands which are souls. 2. The second portion of this stanza illustrates the principle of Sohambhavana, which underlies every mantra from pranava downwards. The devotee, Jivatma, is made to contemplate I am the Atma, God, and he becomes one with God, Advaita. This is the process of identification. The author points out when he can be able to say I am all all the world. This is also the principle which underlies the teaching of Bhagavad Gita. Krishna is the Jivan Mukta, who by his holiness has identified himself with God, Ishvara. He, as Guru, imparts teaching to his pupil, Arjuna, and Sivagnana Yogi observes, "It is not by this process of Sohambhavana that Krishna, when teaching Gita to Arjuna, says, 'I am all the world,' and shows the Lord's Vishvaswarupa in himself and teaches him to worship him and him alone, leaving all other gods. And Arjuna, who believed in him firmly and understood the true significance of his word, performed Shiva Puja till his life's end, and the flowers showered by him on Krishna in divine worship appeared on the sacred person of the Lord. Krishna, as one who received Shiva Diksha initiation from Upamanya Maharishi and had perfected himself in the knowledge of himself and his Lord, had perfected himself in Sohambhavana." The author anticipates here, in fact, what is elaborated in the 3rd chapter on sadhana. 2. The good and bad karma are what the soul had acquired during its previous birth, which now lie at rest bound up with the resolved Maya. To quicken them into being again, the Chit Shakti of the Lord, as the instrumental cause, operates. This Shakti is likened to the authority of a king, hence called Ajna Shakti. It is, in fact, the source of all authority and of all law. A king exercises his authority by moving his limbs of the law, his officers. Such a limb of the supreme law is the law of karma. A king covers himself under the shield of his law from any imputations of partiality, etc., when he metes out reward or punishment. So also God is not open to this charge. The universal law determines the law of karma, and the latter determines what each should undergo, either pleasure or pain. The working of this law is shown in the illustrations. The simple statement of this law of karma is that he reaps as he sows and follows the laws of causation and conservation most rigidly, as no effect can be produced without a cause. A man's body in his present life and his actions could not have been got adventitiously. Of course, God would not have given it of his mere will, as opposed to his law, as otherwise he would be open to the charge of partiality and lacking in swatantram. A being which is at the command of caprice has no control of himself. This therefore brings out the phrase, "what existed before appears now," and which I have simply translated as previous karma. The seed which one gathers in the previous existence develops and matures in the soil, Lord's power, becomes a tree, body, and bears good or bad fruits, pleasure or pain, punyam or papam. Without the soil, the seed will not bear fruit, so without God, the past karma will not bear fruit. I may note here a definition of punyam and papam given by the late Shankara Panditar of Jaffna. Punyam are acts tending to give pleasure to sentient beings. Papam are acts tending to give pain to sentient beings. The fruits of previous karma, eaten in this life form, prarabdha karma. In the process of eating, other acts are performed which form the seed for a future crop. And these acts from akamiya karma, the seeds gathered for a future crop when sown, become sanchita karma. What is akamiya in this life is sanchita for the next. B. The last proposition in the last stanza is that the actions themselves will not bear fruits and make the soul eat them. The question is now asked, why should not the soul choose its own actions and reap the fruits? This is answered in its illustration. It has not got the power of taking its body, whereby the karma has to be performed. This has to be done by God. The cultivator's soul cannot himself produce the tree, body, however he might try. He requires for this the medium of the soil, God. This inability is caused by the soul's want of self-knowledge and self-action, being covered by the anavamala. In plainer language, no man would do a peculiar act tending to produce evil if he had the full knowledge to calculate all its consequences. It is therefore man's ignorance that is the cause of all evil. The only assumption here is that man in his original state is ignorant or imperfect, or is shrouded by ajnanam or anava. Grant this, and start the soul in the cycles of evolution. Then the whole law of karma comes into operation. This doctrine, therefore, is not to be confounded with the doctrine of fate or necessity. Evolution or births are the only modes provided for attaining perfect knowledge, and for getting births or setting us on the wheel of evolution, we require God's help. This original assumption is treated of in the next illustration. See that man is ignorant of knowledge and imprudent in his actions is a fact and is taken as a fact by this school, and is not converted into a myth or atyasam by a process of verbal jugglery. The explanation offered by the idealist is no explanation at all, as after all the explanations offered, the final fact to be accounted for still remains unexplained, namely ignorance or ajnanam or vide, the cause of all pain. We can explain a joint effect by assigning the laws of the separate causes, or we may explain an antecedent and consequent by discovering the intermediate links, or the explanation may consist in reducing several laws into one more general law. None of these modes are adopted by the latter school, but the explanation attempted falls clearly within one or other modes of fallacious or illusory explanations. And as Dr. Bain points out, the greatest fallacy of all is the supposition that something is to be desired beyond the most generalized conjunction or sequences of phenomena, and instancing the case of the union of body and mind, he observes that the case does not admit of any other explanation except that body and mind are found in union.